Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 9 now of the Memorial Memo, KSR's Kentucky Women's Basketball Podcast, brought to you by our friends over at Friends of Cole. Katie, per usual, there's a good amount of stuff to get to. We have a pretty big win over Purdue, have Belmont game to talk about. But before we get to any of that, just how are you?
I'm doing good. Finally finished all my finals, and I'm just going to assume that you're probably done too, so we can get on to break, and it's just going to be so nice and relaxing.
Yeah, I was actually fortunate enough to be able to get my finals done last week, pretty early. And so I was kind of chilling for the most part, but it's good to know that you're done with your finals. Hopefully your grades are good. I mean, I think I got about all mine in. Good enough, I'm not asking for a lot, but my grades are good enough. But Katie, just rolling into things. UK still ranked number 16 in the AP poll. Now, I wanted to kind of gauge your opinion on this. Fair or foul, right? Because I feel like Kentucky, when you beat a team by 42 and then a Power 5 team on the road by 30, feels like
Mhm.
maybe you should go up a little bit. But I actually see some justification in UK still being 16. Where are you on that?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I see the justification too. I feel like even though Purdue is a Power Five school, they don't have any interesting wins on their schedule, so it doesn't really make it to me that big of a deal to like be enough reason for Kentucky to move up, more than one or two spots, if any at all. So being at 16, I think I expected. But hopefully, obviously next week we probably won't move at all, but in the coming weeks, starting in January, hopefully we see some kind of change in the scale, but I guess we will see.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at too. Well, and you have to think about too, and I looked at the whole poll whenever it came out. Kentucky's ranked ahead of North Carolina right
Hmm.
now. North Carolina's 19, Kentucky's 16. And Georgia Tech, who is not only 11-0, but they beat North Carolina on their floor. We're ranked ahead of them too. They're 17.
Hmm.
So you can kind of I think there's an argument to be made that Kentucky should probably be a little bit lower, actually.
Yeah.
But I'm not too opposed to being number 16. And I think I saw this online or someone brought it up to me, one or the other, where someone was like, "Well, Kentucky is just not going to go up because we're not playing anybody right now." But once you, like you were saying, once you do get to January and SEC play, there's plenty of opportunities, and we'll talk about it
Hmm.
more in a minute. But there's plenty of opportunities to get some good wins added to your resume, and good chance to be able to move up in the poll when you got to beat people to move up, and was it, you got to be the man, you got to beat the man, right? Like this isn't
Yeah. I
can't beat Belmont and expect to move up a ton. So
Yeah, I think it also says a lot too that, our big wins or Kentucky's big wins come from beating Illinois and beating Louisville. And Illinois is not ranked anymore. Louisville's not ranked anymore. So these are two games that were classified as big wins against teams that have underperformed. So that also could be a contributing factor of maybe these teams that Kentucky was ranked for in the first place actually aren't as good as what we thought. So that could
yeah.
also be, that was kind of what I was thinking. And then North Carolina is clearly very good, but then with the loss to Georgia Tech, it's like, okay, well, are they really that good? But Georgia Tech's really good too. So it's just like a weird situation right now. So I
Yeah.
really am not sure how I feel about it. I think I expected it, but I would have been shocked if we had moved up in the rankings.
And by the way, you talk about Louisville. I mean, Louisville is. I remember. I think early in the season, and we were talking about preseason scrimmages and this and that, and I think Ole Miss beat Louisville by 20 in a preseason scrimmage, and I
Hmm.
remember being like, it's a preseason scrimmage. Like Louisville will be okay. They'll be fine and dandy. I think they're 6-5, and they just
Yeah,
got beat
honestly, I'm
by
not sure.
NC State. Just beat them by 30 the other day.
Hmm.
Like when Louisville came to town and we beat them in overtime, I thought that was a great win. And I mean,
Hmm.
in fairness, rivalry games are always going to be closer than they should.
Yeah.
Just look at Kentucky Louisville men's basketball. On paper, Kentucky probably wins that game by 15 or so, 15, 20. But of course, it's a rivalry game. Things happen. It's going to be closer. But I mean, Louisville, because they lost to UConn, UCLA, and now NC State, and I can't even remember who their other losses are. But you just look at this Louisville team, and it's like, I wasn't expecting you to be great, but I wasn't expecting you to be hot garbage either. Like,
Yeah, I'm not
we
sure I was
beat you.
expecting them to be unranked this early into the season because
Yeah,
it's not even conference play. So what is happening here? And they were losing to good teams, and they still are. I mean, NC State is ranked,
yeah.
but it just was. I do think that that definitely played a factor in where Kentucky is in the poll. Um, just because teams you expect to be good end up not being as good as what they are, and vice versa. So I kind of think that that's like the situation here.
Yeah, and it's just, like Louisville. I mean, well, for them, conference play did start because I guess there's just a million teams in the ACC, so they started a little early. I think they're 0-1 in the ACC right now because of that loss to NC State. But I'm so disappointed. Like, you need like, these teams that you play, you need them to do good when they're not playing you. So it
Hmm.
looks, whether you lose to them or you beat them, so it looks good. Like
Yeah.
North Carolina, we should all I mean, maybe you shouldn't be North Carolina fans. Let me not say that. But you should, want them to do good so that it looks, oh, we lost to a team that went, a team that won 25 games. Okay, well
Hmm.
that's all right. Like that's not bad. But when you beat Louisville, and thank goodness we didn't lose to Louisville, because how bad would that look now? But you beat Louisville, and it's like, all right, Louisville, please go be the Louisville that we know you are. And then you're 6-5, and it's like, well, that looks like a team that we should have beat. And I
Hmm.
guess that is the case now, but it's just unfortunate.
Yeah, I
Katie,
agree.
another team we should have beat, and we did. Purdue, 82-52 win for the Cats. Just steamrolled them, right? And it didn't seem like that was going to be the case early on. Kentucky was down 12-8 after the first quarter, and I know I thought it, and I'm sure you thought it too. We're like, oh my goodness, they're going to lose this stupid game. We just can't win a dang road game. This is horrible. But Kentucky ended up fixing it. They ended up winning the game and winning in kind of dominant fashion. Just what were your kind of immediate thoughts from the end of that game?
Yeah, I mean, just like you, watching the beginning of the game, especially it being a away game, I'm sitting here watching the game on my laptop while trying to also kind of pay attention to the men's game and, you know, get both experiences, I guess. But
Yeah.
after that first quarter, I just remember thinking, like, this game, first of all, is so boring. There's nothing happening. Nobody's scoring. I remember I was watching the men's game with some of my friends while trying to watch this women's game, and he said, like, one of my friends was like, "So let's see if this men's team, how long it takes them to outscore what the women scored in the first 10 minutes of their game." And it took, I think, like 5 minutes. It was just a very boring first quarter overall. But after that, I mean, it obviously picked up and Kentucky fell into a groove. And so I think after the game, my initial thoughts were like, okay, obviously we did not play great in the first half, but it kind of just goes to show Kenny Brooks' second half adjustments, being able to make those adjustments, and just the team being able to make those adjustments as well, which is very encouraging for future games. And everybody picked up. I mean, five starters have double digits, so I think that that says a lot about just this team in general and their resilience when it comes to tough games.
Yeah, and you talked, and I thought it was interesting because you talk about Kenny making halftime adjustments, and it's like you said, that is a very encouraging thing, especially when you
Hmm.
get late in SEC play or NCAA tournament. You're gonna need those, right? Those halftime adjustments. But does it almost like what I wanted to ask was like, because we talk about halftime adjustments, and when you talk about halftime adjustments in general, you think of it as like, well, it's because you didn't do good in the first half, and you need to make a change going into the
Hmm.
second half. Like, are you more positive about being able to adjust, or are you kind of like me and you're like more negative about the fact that you're starting off bad anyway? Because you saw it against Purdue Fort Wayne, saw it against, I mean, really in almost all these last several
Hmm.
games where Kentucky's just starting off slow. I mean, you're down 12-8 to a now what, 6-5, 5-4, something like that Purdue team,
Hmm.
5-5 maybe. Like, teams that you should be able to beat handily, you're starting off slow against, and you're able to pull away sometimes. But like in that North Carolina game, for example, you start off down in a 21-6 hole. Well,
Mhm.
you're not able to come back like that
Yeah.
against a good team at their place. If Kentucky starts off strong in that game, we're probably 10-0. So I mean, just back to my question, like, are you more positive about, okay, Kenny's really good at these halftime adjustments and we're able to get it together, or again, are you like me where it's like, well, I wish we'd just start off strong in the first place?
I feel like the word adjustment can be used very loosely because the adjustments that he's making doesn't even necessarily have to do with the players that he's playing. Because in close games like this, he's playing his five starters for, I mean, he played most of his five starters for more than 20 minutes, almost 30, some of them, which is less than we have seen before. In North Carolina game, they played, more than 30 minutes for all five of them. So I think when it comes to halftime adjustments, it's just being a coach that is encouraging and make sure that, his team knows like you guys came here to win, so let's win. And I am kind of on your side of like, okay, well, obviously this game did not start the way that we expected it to start, and we kind of need to nail down that problem because why are we not playing very good to start out? And I don't know, I feel like I'm kind of on both sides of the scale. Like, I'm glad that there's a coach that is able to make those adjustments and be a coach that we haven't really seen in a while, but also like something has to change because you have a tough schedule. And
Yeah,
starting out slow as they did in the first half, I mean, I can't remember, but I think they made like 3 shots in the first quarter. That's not gonna cut it at
yeah.
all. So I mean, I'm on both sides. Like I agree with you, but I also think that there can be positives.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess we like against Purdue. I guess we kind of know why they started slow because Kenny just his scout wasn't the most accurate. I
Yeah.
guess you could say. Like I'm pretty, like post game, he talked about like credit to Georgia and Asia because I thought Purdue was going to come out in man, but they played a box and one and their zone and it threw me off, and we were able to adjust after that. But and I'm guessing, and I haven't watched a ton of Purdue. Admittedly, I'm not over here watching Boilermaker ball or anything, but imagine they played a lot of man coming into this
Hmm.
game. I mean, why wouldn't you anticipate man? But um, it's good that Deja and Georgia are able to make that, able to call that out and for Kenny to make that adjustment.
Hmm.
Speaking of Georgia, Katie, 21 points, shot 8 of 15 from the field, but more importantly, scored a 2,000th career point against Purdue. Their Georgia became the seventh active player in women's college basketball to reach that. Just big milestone for her.
Yeah, definitely. I think for her to reach that milestone is obviously so huge, but then to do it at Kentucky and with Kenny, a coach that she has had for 5 straight seasons now, I just am really happy for her, and I only hope that this season gets better for her. She's been scoring upwards of 20 points, I think, for the past three-ish games probably. So, we're seeing a lot of really good things from her recently.
Yeah, and it's about seeing good things, and I really, again, I feel like we talk about this every episode, but Amelia Hassett is just
Hmm.
she's. I mean, literally, if you could somehow put it on a chart of like how is she playing, I feel like on that chart it's just a steady incline. And you're seeing that again. Season high, 22 points, team high, 22 points for that game. 9 rebounds, shot 5 of 10 from deep. Just, I mean, excellent play from her. And
Hmm.
I feel like we just need to almost start expecting it. I kind of to start the season, I felt like, Tiani Key, and Tiani Key's still playing really well. And we'll get
Hmm.
her in just a second. But, you know, it's starting to me like to start the year, Tiani Key was your like she's our most consistent player, and
Hmm.
because her last name's Key, we were all like she's the key to what Kentucky does. But I'm starting to kind of think that's Amelia Hassett because, and I guess it can really be both of them, truthfully. But it's like Amelia, like she gets these big rebounds. I mean against Louisville, I'd say Amelia Hassett's really the reason we won that game. And she's coming out and she's
Hmm.
getting better and better each game, more points. Kenny has every game he's like, Amelia's gonna make 6 threes and then she makes 5, and so he's not quite there for that. But just keeps getting better. I'm waiting for the day she does make 6, 7, 8 threes and goes off for 30 points, in SEC play. Hopefully it's Mississippi State or, one of these games early on to really get momentum going. But Amelia Hassett playing phenomenal basketball, Katie.
Yeah, I mean, she is definitely one of those players that has improved exponentially since the first time we saw her play. And we talk about this, like you said, literally every episode, but we saw her play in practice, so we knew what she could do. I mean, it was like a complete shift from what we saw in practice to what we saw on the court initially. And so to see that confidence coming out in her, it's just so fun to watch. And I think that, she went 5 of 10 from three, which is good. It's really good. And it's, the best margin on the team. But like you said, I'm looking forward to the day that she makes 6, 7, or 8 threes and also surpasses 9 rebounds. It feels like almost every game she ends up with 9 rebounds. Like, let's get a 10th one. Let's get that double double. But it'll happen soon. I truly believe it will happen soon. And I think she will become one of the most important players for this team, if not already.
Right. And then you have someone like Deja Lawrence who didn't kill it scoring. She had 13 points, shot 3 of 9 from 3, but she had 6 assists. And clearly that's a result of, Georgia passing the ball more. Well, it ends up in Deja's hands. She's able to pass the ball. Right. Just good ball movement there between everyone there. But Deja, I think for the first time this season, she's had back-to-back games now with 5+ assists. And, those 13 points, definitely something you need from her. Then you get Tiani Key, 10 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 blocks, just doing what she does, right? And I talked about earlier how Amelia is starting to become that player who I'm feeling is like the X factor to what this team does. But Tiani Key, she's definitely still bringing it. Kind of like Amelia, 1 rebound away from that double-double. Just can't quite get there. But just how about those two, Katie? You have Deja Lawrence and Tiani Key who are each bringing some tremendous impact to what this team does.
Yeah, I love the consistency from both of them because that regardless of how the team is playing as a whole, that they're probably going to be consistent. And, the outlier for Tiani Key was obviously that North Carolina game, but that was a hard game for her because that's her old team. So it was good to see her come back against Purdue and, have a consistent game. It wasn't her best game, but she still played good and she did what she needed to do. So hopefully these two can continue to stay consistent because I think that having players on a team that you can count on to score 25 points between the two of them is just so important for morale because those are 25 guaranteed points that we're going to get. And if one of them happens to be hot that night, then maybe that's 30, 35 points, maybe 40 points. So just a really good duo between the two of them, and I love their consistency.
Yeah, and then you have Claire Strack, who she did get the double-double, Katie. She had 12 points, 12 rebounds, and then 4 assists, 3 blocks. So just kind of doing what she does, filling up the stat sheet. Claire, after that North Carolina game, well, not really after, but just in the North Carolina game, you were like, man, I mean, she got into foul trouble early. She didn't play great at all. But she's had 2 really good bounce-back games now against Queens and now Purdue. Just it's good to see Clara Strack kind of finding her stride again, getting back to what she's been early in the season, and that should really be helpful against Belmont, WKU, and heading into conference play.
Yeah, I remember thinking a little bit that this schedule was kind of odd because you have your big game against North Carolina and then Queens, and then a kind of big game against Purdue, and now you have Belmont, and I can't even think of who they play after Belmont. WKU. So there are 2 teams heading into SEC play that I think will just be confidence building games because obviously you should come out with a win. I think that for Clara, she has been, I think after that North Carolina game where she did not play great, she really needed that Queens game. And then this game against Purdue, she had 12 points, but we've seen her do more. So hopefully these next 2 games will be 15 points, 20 points. And then that way, heading into SEC play, she's got it in her head, 20 points. She can score 20 points. And I think that that's going to be so crucial for her. But yeah, I mean, defense was great. She played great defense.
Yeah, and Katie, as Purdue win, maybe not this game as much, but winning this game is big because more so a loss could have hurt your NCAA tournament resume, which we're about to get to after we shout out our friends over at Friends of Coal. Friends of Coal is dedicated to informing and educating Kentucky citizens about the coal industry and its vital role in the state's future. We provide a united voice for an industry that has been and remains a critical economic contributor to Kentucky. By working together, we can provide good jobs and benefits for future generations. Coal is resilient, reliable, and affordable. Friends of Coal is a volunteer organization. All are invited to be a part of our organization, which consists of proud Kentuckians as well as residents from beyond our borders. Head to friendsofcoalkentucky.org to learn more. But yeah, Katie, just back to Purdue and kind of winning that game and what it means for your NCAA tournament resume. Now, women's basketball and men's basketball have different quadrant systems. And, this all kind of goes off the net rankings, which is what the NCAA uses to basically like who's getting in the NCAA tournament, who isn't. And basically just kind of breaking down the resume here. Kentucky, just kind of going over these first 10 games that they've played. You are 4-0 in quad 4, which is you need to be undefeated in quad 4. Any quad 4 loss is going to kill you. And then you're 4-0 combined in quad 2 and quad 3. Now, the good thing about Kentucky is that they actually have 8 opportunities left combined between those two seeds. Kentucky is, just, a lot of opportunities left there. And obviously, it depends on what kind of system you use. And it makes no sense because you look at, like, on our screen right now, you see 0-1, 2-0, 0-0, and 7-0. And that's purely based off the net rankings. And then I have right here on my side, like where I'm looking at, and this is based off like Bart Torvik, which people use from people use Bart Torvik for men's basketball, really analytical stuff for the women. People use it for women's basketball too. But just purely based off the net rankings, Kentucky's 0-1, quad 1. Of course, if you go off like the Bart Torviks and such, they're actually 1-1 because that Illinois game being a neutral site game helps a lot. But you are 2-0 right there, if you can see on the screen in quad 2. Louisville probably should be a quad 1 game, but like we were talking about earlier, Louisville sucks. And then you win the games you're supposed to. Of course, I have on my end, 4-0, 2-0, and then there's 7-0 right there. But regardless, Katie, just basically kind of summarize all of that junk, all of those numbers. You're winning the games you're supposed to. The North Carolina loss, that doesn't kill you. Like, of all the games to lose, the North Carolina game is the one that you should lose, the game on the road at a top 20 school. But just, and we talked about how there's so much opportunity left. And that's the beauty of playing in the SEC. And I get it. We're about to preview one of these non-conference games, and we have another one, then the SEC play. But Katie, there's just a lot of opportunity to keep building that NCAA tournament resume.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And being hopefully 11-1 heading into conference play is going to help with that as well. But definitely a lot of really good opportunities. I think that the SEC, and I'm, you probably know a little bit more than I do about this, but I think that the teams in the SEC are pretty top heavy. I feel like once you get to the lower teams in the SEC, they're really not that great. So, maybe there's not tons and tons of opportunities for Kentucky, but I feel like any conference win is a good win. And obviously you want to be ranked at the highest in the conference. So just trying to win as many of those games as you can, obviously. So we have that stretch at the end of the season. And I believe that it's LSU, Texas, South Carolina, I think.
LSU, Tennessee, South Carolina, those last 3 games.
Yeah, so that's going to be a really difficult stretch. But I think before that, if you're heading into those games, with 1 or 2 losses, that is probably the best possible case scenario. Obviously, best case scenario is no losses, but realistically, that might be the best case scenario.
Yeah, and I mean, you talked about it, like that last month of the season. So from February 2nd to March 2nd, here's that slate, right? You play at Oklahoma. That's at a top 10 team. You play at Ole Miss. It's at a top 25 team. You host Texas, but they're a top 5 team. You play Georgia at home. That's clearly the most favorable game that you have in that stretch. You play Missouri on the road. That's a game you should win too.
Mhm.
And like you said, to end the season, LSU at home, Tennessee at home, which you should probably win that Tennessee game. But they're undefeated. They're setting records left and right, hitting a million threes. And then you play on the road at South Carolina, and that's playing at their place is a death sentence.
Mhm.
But if you can head into that last month, I'm looking at the Bart Torvik page. Kentucky is supposed to win one game in that stretch, and that's that Georgia game, and that's Bart Torvik. Now it's not the be all end all, obviously, but that's no one is going to have a harder last month of the season than Kentucky, and so it's just going to be interesting when we get there. Can we have like 2 losses, 3 losses, so we're not down there Bart Torvik says we're going to have a 17-11 record, 7-9 conference record. Now, I believe that's probably not accurate. I'd probably say we're closer to 19, 20, 21 wins, and I think that's really good for this season. But regardless, just a gauntlet of a schedule. But when you say that, a gauntlet of a schedule, well, that really means you have a lot of opportunity. Look at the glass half full rather than half empty. Then you look at a team like Arkansas, Katie, who is just absolutely horrible. And just looking at the way Bart Torvik has it, and I'm sure it's pretty close to this in the net rankings too. That's a quad 4 game, an SEC game being quad 4. Just not a great team, but a team who actually, we're at the preview Belmont, and we'll actually do that right now. That game between Kentucky and Belmont, according to, again, this is not the be all end all. Kentucky's projected to win that game by 3 points, 63-60. And now Belmont's 5-5, but they've played some really good competition really closely. Let's see here. Who do they play? I just saw it. I just had it on my thing. They played Ohio State. They lost that by 4. They lost by 4, 67-63. And then you have Mississippi State, who we'll see very soon, 73-70. Again, just like Ohio State, they were number 12 when they played them, but they're up to 11 now. Like, this Belmont team, they've played some good competition, right?
Mhm.
And then Katie, projected 3rd in the Missouri Valley Conference preseason poll. They actually got 3 first-place votes. So, that people have some faith in them. And then they had 3 players who we're about to talk about, Katie, who were second-team preseason all-conference. So just to kind of start things, and probably their biggest threat, Emily LaChapelle here, 12.1 points, 3.2 rebounds. She can score in a multitude of ways. Like, she's not going to kill you from shooting anywhere, but Katie, someone who can get you, Jalen Banks there. She was preseason second-team all-conference, 11.2 points, 41.2% from 3. Kentucky's defense has been pretty good, but Katie, you see this trio here on our screen. It's going to be, you're going to have to play good if you're going to beat Belmont.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, Belmont's only been averaging about 65 points per game. But what's also interesting is that they only allow about 65 points per game. So even if their offense isn't the strongest, their defense is very good. So that could be a little bit worrying, especially if Kentucky gets off to a start like they did against Purdue or Purdue Fort Wayne or against North Carolina. Just not being strong from the start could hurt them. And so even though this is a game you should win, this could very easily turn around and do a complete 180 to something that you would never expect to happen.
Yeah, and I didn't realize this when we started recording, but shout out to Daniel who's producing this for us. Help us out. He looks up some stuff. All 5 of Belmont's losses are to teams in the top 21 of the net rankings. I did not realize that. I knew Belmont had a pretty tough schedule coming in. Did not realize it was that tough, Katie. But
Yeah.
I was about to say, like Belmont, it feels like they're either really good or they're mid. And you look at their 5-5 record, and you'd think that they're mid, and you would think that they're meh. But just look at that. Okay, you look at Kansas State, Ohio State, Duke, Michigan, and Mississippi State, all very good teams. All very good teams there that they've lost to. And of course, you look at that Kansas State and Duke score, and they get blown out. But those are also games on the road. Like,
Mhm.
it's hard to kind of gauge what Belmont's going to be because, again, they've only lost to these really, really good teams. Like, you look at that Middle Tennessee team they beat. You know, Middle Tennessee. We talked about them last episode. They beat Purdue. Pretty sure that Middle Tennessee team beat Purdue, right? And you look at their schedule and you think, well, the Bruins, are they good? Are they not? Katie just, I mean, as you can see, just very, very tough schedule. And, being 5-5, they look bad. But,
Mhm.
I mean, clearly, they're able to keep up with some of these really good teams, which should make it interesting heading into Friday's game.
Yeah, I mean that Mississippi State game, they only lost by 3. And Mississippi State right now is 10-1. So a very good SEC team from what we've seen so far. So yeah, definitely seeing how well they're able to keep up with good teams is a little bit worrying. But again, you have the home court advantage, so this game should be a win. But of course, you don't want to go into a game like this expecting that because what happens if you lose? And you lose to Belmont, which I'm looking at this Bart Torvik website that you're showing me. All 5 of their losses are quad 1 losses, and then they're ranked number 48, which is kind of interesting to me. I think that that's what that means. It's like based off of all of the analytics that they're the 48th best team in the nation.
Okay.
Um, so just it's a little bit worrying. You don't want to underestimate this team because their record is misleading, I think.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we said about Purdue because 3 of their 4 losses were the top 10 teams too, and
Hmm.
Belmont. I mean, clearly, I mean, you see it on our screen. You see the schedule. All of their losses are to really good teams. And also, there's 2 more players who I want to go over. One of which who has maybe like an all-time name player, Kendall Cheeseman, and that's not like I mean I don't know to tell you Cheesman. I mean Cheeseman. I mean I don't know how else you could pronounce that. 8.9 points and 6 rebounds per game. Believe she's their leading rebounder. And Tootie Jones, who Tootie and Kendall were actually the 2 other players that were preseason all conference. 6.7 points per game, 2.4 rebounds per game. You're gonna get out of them, but it's like you said. I don't think Belmont's not a team that should kill you. But I feel like they play good enough defense, which against our slow to start offense, I don't love that. But that's a team you should beat. But Katie, Belmont, they're gonna bring a fight on Friday, and it's gonna be interesting to see how Kentucky holds up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very eager to see how they hold up, especially because I'm looking at the roster right now. There's a couple of Kentucky natives on the team, so it's going to be fun to watch them come back. It's Quinn Eubank and Kensley Feltner. So both of them are from Kentucky. And I'm just trying to, they don't really have much height, is basically what I'm looking at right now. They have like a couple players, their tallest player is 6'2", so that's good to know because Kentucky obviously has height. Um, but those are kind of teams I don't want to say that I feel weary about this game because I know that Kentucky can win, but I kind of do. I just do. I don't really know if it's like a weird gut feeling, but I feel like this game is going to be kind of a replay of Purdue Fort Wayne where you start out really, really terribly and then hopefully pick it up towards the end.
Yeah, and then you think about first of all, before I even get to what I was about to say, you said there's 2 players from Kentucky.
Hmm.
I forget Belmont is. I'm pretty sure it's literally in Nashville,
Yeah.
at least down by there. I forget that. I feel like Belmont.
Vermont.
Belmont is just somewhere off in the distance that no one has ever seen. I forget that it's like literally right down the road,
I have
basically.
a friend that goes to Belmont,
And
funnily
you have a
enough.
friend that goes to Belmont. So
Hmm.
yeah, I mean they're literally right there, and I just
Yeah.
feel like I forget. If I'm not wrong, this is actually going to be a home and home. Like off season they schedule these games. I think this is actually going to be a home and home. Like next year, I think we're actually going to go to Belmont.
Hmm.
Could be wrong. I may have the game confused. But you
I know
said
we
there's
did
2
home
players.
and home for Purdue.
Yes, I know. We have that for Purdue, I know, but I think maybe Belmont too. Uh, Katie, just real quick, you said there's 2 players from Kentucky. Where in Kentucky are they from?
One of them's from Louisa, went to Lawrence County, so that's my neck
Okay.
of the woods. And then Union, which I think is near Louisville.
Union
And
is
Eubank went to Ryle.
okay. Yeah, went to Rock. You said that's like northern Kentucky area, but that's good to know. Two
Mhm.
bluegrass natives that Kentucky will be going against, so that's always good to know. And previewing this Kentucky Belmont game, Katie. We're wrapping up our episode here. Kind of winding down, just holiday game. Because they have these themes that they come with for every game. What's your favorite Christmas song? Favorite Christmas movie? Because I
Oh
guess
my
I
goodness.
guess now that I think about it, this is gonna probably be our last podcast before Christmas, if I can do math right. So
This was going to be an interesting debate, I think, if anybody watching wants to share their thoughts. But I was trying to watch a Christmas movie with my boyfriend a couple days ago. We could not figure out one to watch because I don't really like Christmas movies. I know that's a hot take, but I like Elf and
okay,
the normal Christmas movies. I don't know, but I don't really watch them. So I said, why don't we just watch Harry Potter? Because I think Harry Potter, funnily enough, it takes place during Christmas. Almost every single movie takes place during Christmas
wait,
because
does it?
every single movie is a year. It's a year of school. So there's a Christmas in every
Oh,
movie.
okay.
But in the fourth movie, they go to something called the Yule Ball, and it's like a Christmas themed dance. And I said, let's just watch Harry Potter because I think it's
Huh.
not a
Okay.
Christmas movie, but a Christmassy movie. It's kind of
Well, I
like Die
mean,
Hard.
well, I was about to say I've never seen Die Hard, so I wouldn't really know. But like people are always having that debate of is it really a Christmas movie or not? And I'm like, I mean, of course, I don't know. But I think what isn't the argument for it being a Christmas movie like it takes place during
It takes
Christmas?
place during Christmas. Christmas doesn't affect the plot. I think
Yeah,
Christmas affects the plot of Harry Potter, so that's why I say it is Christmassy, but I would not say that about that.
I don't know, man. I don't like. Maybe Harry Potter is a Christmas movie. Don't know. What about your favorite Christmas song, by the way?
Um, I think it's called Christmas Wrapping.
Okay.
It's like a fun little cheerful song. I don't listen to Christmas music either. Call me
Okay.
Scrooge,
Yeah.
I don't care. I just vibe, I guess. I don't really know.
There we go. All right, I'd have to probably say mine's like Jingle Bell Rock, something classic.
Mhm.
But anyway, you got Phoenix Stevens here. Apparently, Ebenezer Scrooge, Miss Katie Hutchison over there. You know, again, you have two games, Belmont and WKU, that you should win, but coulda, woulda, shoulda. You have to go win them. You can't lose them. And then you head into SEC play. Hopefully, next episode we're recapping wins and talking about future wins and not talking about losses and hopefully not future losses. Again, this is Phoenix Stevens here with Katie Hutchison, wrapping up episode 9 now, the More Memo. I feel like we're just rolling along, Katie. Anyway, guys, we will see you all next time.